All right, welcome back. It's Dr. Scu here to teach you again. Today we're going to master how to implement the basic shortcuts in Excel. And it took me a long time just to think about, okay, what are basic shortcuts which people should just have memorized? There's a difference between like I am going to kind of get used to something and I'm going to memorize it. So the first thing we're going to go into is just the absolute basic, like you need to just know this, all right? So if I make any adjustment to my workbook, all right, then I'll need to save it in order to have that data, um, you know, to be recollected. You know what I mean? So if I press Control S, it will automatically save the workbook. Now, a lot of times the little save button will be up here if you haven't customized your ribbon, or if you go here, you can press Control Save. Now, for Control Save as, like if I need to rename the document, I will usually just go in there. But in general, when you're updating your workbook, just every once in a while, just throw out a Control S, just real quick. You're going, you're working, etc., etc. Boom, Control S. That way, you don't have to rely on an auto recover function to save your work. Now the next biggest one is undo, and oh my goodness, you are going to use this all the time. Say you're saying, okay, I want to do this, and then I want to do this like this, and you're like, oh, I don't want it to be two. I want it to be something else. You press Control Z, okay? And then going off of that, you're like, oh, I did actually want to do what I just did. You press Control Y to redo. Okay, so I'm gonna go over that again. So say you're doing anything, say, okay, I want to add 18 to this cell, and then I want to multiply this by 2. By the way, if you just start typing into a cell, it will automatically let you start typing into it. Now that's different than the last guide I was talking about how you press F2 to edit. When you press F2 to edit, it adds to the end of the cell, not the start of the cell. So if I inputted something here and I start typing, it will write over what I just did. Now I didn't want to do that, so if I press Control Z, it's going to undo that, and then now I'm going to press F2. Now I've opened up the cell. I'm going to input some parentheses here, and I'm going to apply a logic of divide by 3 and press enter. And say I messed up, I can press Control Z. I don't want that anymore, but hey, I want that back. I press Control Y to redo. Okay, so Control S, Control Z, Control Y. These are really useful, like uber useful. And the next one's going to be Control F. So what is this? It's I want to find something in my document. Now this usually works if you're on a website, or Control F is pretty universal across most softwares. You press Control F, it's going to pull up a find here. Now another really useful one is replace. So say I have red and I have well, we can just do red for now. And the way I did that, by the way, is if you select a bunch of cells and you want them all to be the same thing, type in what you want. Type in, let's say, orange. Okay. Instead of pressing enter, if you hold control and press enter, all of the cells will get that input. All right, so say I want to find orange. So I press control F and then this pops up. I type in orange, enter. And oh, sorry, I meant to do red. So I type in red, enter, and it'll jump to red. I press enter again. It'll snap me to the next red. Okay, so it's going through and it's finding all of the reds here. Now what I can also do is I can press Control F and I can tab, 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 tab. And I get up here, I press the right arrow key over to replace. Now I can say, okay, I want you to find red, that's good, but now I want you to replace that with orange, okay? And then I press tab, tab, replace all, okay? And what it did is it literally looked for red in any of the text and it replaced it with orange. Now I don't actually want it to do that, so I'm gonna press Control Z to undo, and we can get rid of that. Okay. And the next really big one is jump. So um, say you want to do, say you want to make a table that's 360 months long. So do 360 months. Maybe you're doing an amortization schedule for a mortgage or you're building a model, right? And you're like, all right, I need to go out 360 things. Well, I don't know how to count 360 columns here, and that would be really annoying. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go here. I'm at A1. I'm going to press F5, and I'm going to say go to A360. Okay, that takes me to 360. Now I'm going to press 1. I'm going to enter that in, and I'm going to press Control C to copy, and I'm going to paste this all the way up, and we'll go over all the paste functions. And I'm just going to show you how to do this real quick. Now I'm going to press Control X, I'm going to cut it, I'm going to move it over here, and then I want this to be transposed. Okay. So all I did there is I used the F5 function to jump to A360. When I was at A360, I basically just copied ones all the way from the A360 up to A1, and then I transposed those numbers up here. And then what I can do here is I can say, okay, I want this to equal 1, and then I'm going to say I want this to equal this plus 1. I hop over here, and now I have 360. So that's how I would quickly make a 360 month period in the Excel book. It's using some of these copy features, the jump feature, and we're going to go into copy just to give you guys a better understanding there. So copying. Now this one is super, super, super important. At the end of the day, Excel is you're basically just working in a mini database here, okay? These are all just cells with columns and rows. It's all going to be filled with data. Now, I'm just going to do this real quick. Let's say 10 to 100. Okay. And we're going to copy that over. Okay. And I'm just making data for us to play with. All right, so I made some data here. So let's say you want to just copy this data selection. So remember from our previous video, if you press Control Shift before you move, I can press right and then down, and I can select, and you can also go Control Shift down, then right, does not matter. You can start in the bottom corner, you can go up and left, it does not matter. So I press Control C, okay, and that's going to copy the data set. And then to paste it, we press Control V. So I should actually edit that. This should be Control C. And then Control V. Cannot type today. All right. All right. So all we did, just to recap here, is we just highlighted the data set. We press Control C to copy it, and we press Control V to paste it. Okay. That is the simplest way to copy something. Now, the best way to copy something is actually to do it a little bit more advanced, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Let's say I just wanted to copy. We're just going to work with this a little bit of a smaller data set to make this a little bit easier. Let's say that you just want to copy this, okay? So I'm going to press Control C again. We're always going to use Control C, okay? But on the actual pasting function, we're actually going to use our Alt key. So press Alt. Okay, that's going to activate this tab up here. We're going to press Home with the H key. And then if you look here, V is for paste. So Alt HV. And then there's really only two keys that there's really only a couple keys you're going to use. Let's say there's three keys. All right, you're going to use values, formulas, and transpose. And I'm going to go through each one. Okay, so let's just say that you just need these data numbers to be moved. So I'm going to press Control C. I'm going to move over here. I'm going to press Alt H to get to the home, and then it's V to paste, and then I press V again for values. So it'll be hard at first, like Alt H V V seems like a lot, but once you realize that Alt H is what gets you to the home tab, and V activates the pasting function, then really all you're memorizing is either V, F, or T, because those are the only three ones you're really going to use. So anyway, so we copied that as values. This is Alt HV. Okay. Now let's say these are formulas. So let's say it's like equals 2 times 3, and this is equals 3 divided by 2. If I come here and I paste this as values, Alt HVV, if you look, there's no longer a formula here. So if I go back here, there's a formula. If you go here, there's no formula. So the way we keep the formulas is we paste it as formulas. So if I go Alt H, V, and then, sorry, Alt H, V, F, okay, that will paste it as formulas. All right. And then the final thing is, say I want to transpose this, which just means I want it to go from that to that, or from this to this. Okay, it's the same thing. We're just going to do Control C, and then we're going to come down here, and we're going to do Alt H V T. That's going to transpose it. Okay, and that's actually what I did earlier. I took everything in A, I transposed it into row 1. All right, so long and the short of it is use the actual paste function up here instead of Control V. And the reason is once you get really fast at it, it'll just be second nature. So if you want to paste as values, paste as formulas, transpose, you won't even be thinking about it. You'll automatically go Alt H V, and then you'll think, okay, do I want to paste as values V, formulas F, or transpose T? And that's all you're going to think through. Some other things to note just really quickly here. Say I have, we're going to do 10 across. Okay, so say I want to take this value of 10 and I want to split it across, or maybe it's a formula. Let's say it's equals, 2 times 3, and say these are 1. So we're going to make this 1, and we're going to make this plus 1. Okay, make this to add 1 each time, okay? So if I want to move across a formula here, what I can do is say, okay, what if I want to square this? So I'll equals this, and I'm going to square it. Okay. If I use the shift right arrow, I can drag across. I'll highlight all these. You press Control R. It copies everything to the right. Okay. So all I did there was I highlighted where I wanted to go. Then I press Control and R at the same time. It takes this and it applies your formula down. The best part is because we're not locking the cells here, the formula is actually going to be moving. So each cell here is going to move along the row here. Now if we copy this down, Control D, it'll take this formula and move it down. So instead of being linked to the row 13, it'll now be linked to row 14. Okay. It'll move it across. So Control D, Control R, using the paste functionality up here. Those are really the keys you're going to want to use to really master copying and pasting data. The only other thing to note here is cutting. If you press Control X, you can cut. So that's just good to know. You just put Control X, Control B, Control X, Control B. You can move it around really quickly. All right, and other things that you should just really know is the basic formatting. So if you want to format this, okay, just press Control B. This one you just kind of got to memorize, right? It's Control B for I want to bold, I press Control and B. Pretty self-explanatory. If I want to italicize, Control I. If I want to get rid of it, Control I, Control B. Control B to apply, Control B to unapply, Control I to apply, Control I to unapply. Okay, really simple. Now, if I want to format it more complex, or just do anything to it really, one thing you can do is you can press Alt H. That'll activate the home, and then there's some formatting options up here. So I can press K for accounting, P for percentage, AN if I want to get the a dollar sign in front of there. But let's say I want to do like a little bit more advanced stuff. If you just press Control 1 here, okay, you will automatically be up here, and you just press your arrow keys to skip through. And you can apply a border, you can apply a fill, you can apply a font. So a lot of times what I'll do is say, okay, I want to go into font. I press tab to go down here. I'll say, oh, you know what? I want to do times New Roman. Perfect. Tab, regular's fine. Size, I want that to be 12. Do I want any strike throughs? No. No, we're good, we're good. I'm tabbing, tab, 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 tab. Come up here. I'm back up top now. I arrow key over. Go over here to number. I want accounting. Tab to go into accounting. How many decimal places do I want? 0. Tab to symbol. I'm going to do the down arrow key. I don't want a symbol. Great. Press tab again to go to OK. Press enter. Cool. And so again, that's control 1 and you'll pop that up. So that's really it's a really quick way just to apply some formatting without messing around up here if you know you want to do a couple of things. Another thing, we're going to have a separate video for this, but custom formatting, when people say custom, they're usually not talking about the right thing. This is custom formatting and this is amazing. You can do some really cool things with custom formatting here. So we'll do an entire separate video for that. Some more niche things. If you want to do a hyperlink, so say I want to go, set a hyperlink. A lot of times in my workbooks, I'll have a hyperlink to click here to return home. So I'll do Control K. So you press Control K, it opens up this hyperlink, and then say I want to place this within the document. Okay, and the cell reference is A1. I want it to be I won't type the cell reference. Let's have it be movement setup. Let's do A1. Okay. So that's actually what we want here. So I'm just going to copy that and put that right there. Okay. So what's that saying? That's saying go to the tab, movement and setup. And then he has the that apostrophe tells you that that's over. And then it says, okay, go to cell A1. And then here I'm going to say go to home. So this is where do you want to go to, and this is what do you want to display. Press OK. So OK, it says go to home. I click, boom, and click here again, boom. So you can have shortcuts here. You can say go to home. You can have go to appendix, whatever. Okay, and to put those in, you're just pressing Control K. Really simple to set up. Okay. And then there's select all. If you press Control A, it's going to grab all the data near your active cell. So if I press Control A, it'll grab that. If I press Control A here, it'll grab both of them. Out here, it'll grab the whole thing. If I do Control A here and I press Control A again, it'll grab the whole sheet. So like if you're in a data set and you just want to grab the surrounding data, that can be a quick way to do it. But again, you can always do that with your arrow keys and Control and Shift. This is super helpful, and it's a little bit more complex because you have a couple of keybinds that you have to remember, but once you do it enough, this becomes amazing. So let's say you're looking at a district and it has a size and a population and it has, some dollar amount associated, whatever it is. You have a couple metrics here, okay? And you want to analyze this quickly. What I'll do whenever I get a data set, I go over the data set, I go to the top here, the column headers, I highlight them and I press Control Shift L. What that does is it applies filters to the top of the data set. And you press Alt and the down arrow at the same time, and then you can go into this data set. So if I put a bunch of 10s in here, and I press Alt down, and then let's make some of these 11. Okay. So I can scroll down, I'm using my arrow keys here. I can scroll down, I can say, okay, get rid of everything within 11. I use the space bar, so I just hit the space bar once to get rid of 11. Then I press enter, and then it just filters those out from my data set. Then I can go over to size, and I can say, okay, I want you to get rid of, the ones that are orange. Okay, and then you can really cut down your data set by applying those. And then you can highlight them, whatever you want to do, stick in a new variable. Now the best part is one way to get rid of this is you can go in, you can clear the filter, press spacebar, then enter, press escape, and then you go alt down again, you go over here, you clear the filter, press spacebar, right? You can clear those filters, or you can press Control Shift L, boom. So I'll go into a data set, I'll pop a filter on, I'll put on, 3 or 4 different cuts of everything I want. And then I will just press Control Shift L once I figured out what I wanted to figure out, and we're back to the original data set. That is probably my favorite shortcut. Another thing you can do is a really quick way to establish a pivot table, and we are going to have a full video on the pivot table, is, well, it's pretty simple once you know how to use this format up here, but you just press Alt N. So all I did here is I press Alt to activate this tab. You press N to go to Insert, excuse me, sorry, and then you press V for pivot table, and then you press T from this table slash range, and then you just press enter. Now you can, if you, I usually like it on a new worksheet. If you want to put it on an existing worksheet, you press existing, and then you just click on where you want it to be. You say okay, then you get your pivot table. Now, that's, is it like the most important thing in the world to know how to do that? No, you can just highlight it and you can say, okay, well, let me just, I know it's on insert, and you can just kind of look. The nice thing is once you understand how these tabs up here work, then you can just look at it. So I can say, okay, oh, I know it's under insert, press N. I know it's pivot table, press V. I know it's from table or range, press T. And you can just work your way through without ever needing a mouse. So that's a really good point to stop for now. In the next video, we're going to go into some more complex formulas. And so I'm going to break down my favorite formulas, like some product index match. But until then, I think these are some really good basics just to get you set up, just to get you moving. And we'll go through there and make sure that you're progressing well. Thank you and have a good day.